you.
Senator Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for calling this hearing. I have to say, what we've been learning is so deeply disturbing at so many levels. First, we discover that Wells Fargo had a sales culture that was blatantly antithetical to what's best for customers. We discover that management had far too few common sense controls in place to prevent the kind of abuse that customers were subject to. We discover Wells Fargo executives completely out of touch. In a 2011 Forbes article, Wells Fargo was rated the best at cross-selling its products. Only problem is we discovered Wells Fargo wasn't always cross-selling. Signing up customers for products when you know the customer doesn't want the product. Failing to notify customers about these sham accounts open in there. And this isn't cross-selling. This is fraud. That's what this is. And then we discover way too little done to prevent it from continuing even after it was discovered. So Wells Fargo employees continued for years to literally forge customer signatures, including my constituents, on documents to open up accounts. And then the case of Carrie Tolstead, my understanding is that something on the order of over $20 million in bonuses for her between 2010 and 2015 were awarded because of strong cross-sell ratios. Yet we know in some cases she was hitting numbers by these fraudulent accounts. So this is unbelievable. Let me begin, Mr. Stumpf. Do you acknowledge that the employees who engaged in this activity were committing fraud?
You know, I'm not a criminal officer, and I don't know I'm not a lawyer, and I know the legal term. I know this. They broke our code of ethics. They were dishonest, and we did everything we can to support law enforcement on these issues.
I'm not a lawyer either. Neither are most adults in America, but I think most people understand the meaning of the word fraud. Black Law's dictionary does provide a useful definition. It says, fraud is a knowing misrepresentation or knowing concealment of a material fact made to induce another to act to his or her detriment. How does falsely signing a customer up for an account they don't want, how does it not meet that definition?
Well, and again, if that's a definition that I can tell you this is absolutely wrong. We found this out. We got rid of those people, and they have no place. That behavior has no place in our culture. If that means fraud, that means fraud.
At what point did you alert your regulators and law enforcement that you had probably criminal activity happening on a large scale?
Yeah, well, again, it was 1% of our people, Senator, and
but
I know that
5,000 is a big number.
It's bigger than my hometown. I do know that, and but we also had the vast majority who did the right thing. But let's talk about those. Every time, and we made a very bright line. If it happened one time, it was one time.
I know. I have only 5 minutes here.
Okay, and answer your question. I'm sorry. We sent it. We did everything we needed.
Did you refer to law enforcement
when it was required? We did everything according to the rules.
When did you begin to disclose in SEC filings that you had this potentially material adverse set of circumstances that could certainly have huge damage to your reputational value?
Well, I can't answer that. I'd have to get to our legal team. I don't have that in front of me. But this was not I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know.
Well, we haven't been able to discover such a disclosure, and the SEC very clearly requires disclosure of material adverse circumstances. And I don't know how this could not be deemed material. I think the market cap lost 9% over the last couple of weeks. That's pretty material.
Yeah, well, from a financial perspective, $2.6 million, and it's $2.6 million too much, and $185 million was not deemed material.
I get that those dollar amounts may not qualify as material to a bank the size of Wells Fargo, but the reputational damage done to the bank clearly is material. And that has been manifested by this huge adverse movement in stock prices. Let me raise one other issue. You mentioned in your testimony And you state unequivocally that there are no orchestrated effort or scheme, as some have called it, by the company. But when thousands of people conduct the same kind of fraudulent activity, it's a stretch to believe that every one of them independently conjured up this idea of how they would commit this fraud. Isn't it very probable that there was some orchestration that happened at some level? If not, I'm not suggesting it was you personally by any means, but doesn't it defy common sense to think that there wasn't some orchestration of this?
Senator, I don't know what motivated or why people did this, but we did fire managers and managers of managers, and in the case, an area president. So again, this 1% is way too many. I don't want to minimize it, but I also want to make sure that we recognize that the vast majority of the people did exactly the things we wanted them to do to help deepen customer relationships, help them succeed financially. And also, we have put a number of other controls in place besides taking sales goals off the table. We don't any deposit account today or any credit card without a signature. And while there's a couple of cases where ADA and where they can't, we'll have a dual notice, we're also doing mystery shopping, and we're also giving customers a 1-hour notice by email, or if they don't have an email, by letter, to make sure that we know exactly and they know exactly what they've opened.
It seems like it took an awfully long time to impose those sort of basic controls. I see I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Menendez.